Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another edition of the Spurs Chat podcast. In this edition, we'll be previewing the Coventry v Tottenham Hotspur game. Of course, we will be in action Wednesday evening in the Carabao Cup. Third round, the game kicks off at 8 p.m. It is live on Sky Sports at the Coventry Building Society Arena. We will also be discussing Ange Postecoglou's comments that he made in Tuesday's press conference ahead of the Coventry game. And we also have Ange Postecoglou's embargoed press conference. It will be out at 10:30. We will also be looking at Ange Postecoglou's, we will be predicting Ange Postecoglou's team on Wednesday. Back with me is channel regular Craig Dearman. Craig, how are you?
Yeah, I'm all good. Obviously not over the result of the weekend, but feel a bit more normal, shall we say, and a bit more level-headed. So, yeah, still disappointing though, isn't it?
You're always level-headed. That's why you're on this channel pretty much every day, Craig. People love you. The feedback when you're on this show is fantastic. So thank you for joining me yet again, because the amount of hours that you and I have put in this podcast, I don't know, in the last couple of weeks, the last couple of months has been absolutely incredible. But yes, very disappointing on Sunday at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. But it is now time for Spurs to go and get into the fourth round of the Carabao Cup by beating Coventry City on Wednesday evening. Let me start by asking, how are you feeling ahead of this game? Because, of course, this time last year, or actually earlier than this, we actually got knocked out in August against Fulham. Ange Postecoglou made 10 changes. Now, I know we'll talk about the press conference comments from Ange. A lot of changes are expected. But before we talk about that, how are you feeling ahead of this game?
I'm a bit more positive because we've actually gone a round further than we did last year by not even doing anything, so that's always a plus. But I am a bit nervous because I want us to progress in this tournament, and I think it's important for the club to get a win under their belts against Coventry, because it would be a disaster. Let's face it. If we went out tomorrow night, that would be horrific, wouldn't it? Obviously, Everton have gone out tonight, so it's another Premiership team out of the way. Manchester United had a comfortable win over Barnsley tonight. I watched a bit of that, putting out a lot of players that perhaps don't get picked as much, but obviously Barnsley, with all due respect, are not doing particularly well at the moment. So we'll come on to our predicted lineup for this, but I would like to think whatever team Ange puts out, that we've got a fair to middling chance, we should have, of going through. I know we had 10 changes at Fulham last year. We only lost the game on penalties, but they just didn't do enough. That team should have been enough to beat Fulham, and they just didn't do it. And they haven't really turned up the last couple of games at Spurs. It's just not clicked, has it? So it would be a good opportunity to get a bit of confidence back, and hopefully this will kick us on for the rest of the season.
Craig, with the way that the Premier League results have gone so far, 1 win, 1 draw, 2 defeats, especially, it hits hard when you lose against your North London rivals, especially 3 years on the trot in our own stadium. But when you look back at last year, and you've said those words that I've said year in, year out under various different managers. I can think about the Colchester game under Pochettino, the Sheffield United game under Antonio Conte. We've been here so many times under so many managers where they have made multiple changes in games like this. Now, I think that a lot of Spurs fans right now are hoping and praying that Ange Postecoglou goes extremely strong in this Coventry game. Now, if fans haven't listened to Ange Postecoglou's press conference that came out, it was recorded at 1 p.m. on Tuesday. If they haven't listened to that, I think that some people are in for a little bit of a shock, because he's already come out and said that the likes of Bergvall, Gray, Jed Spence, etc., they will be getting game time. We'll talk about your predicted lineup in a second. But he mentioned Gray, Bergvall, Moore, Wilson, Odebear, Papa Matsar, Radu Dragushin. So there are a lot of changes expected. Is there a part of you that worries about a manager and a team changing so many players in an important game? And it is an important game. I know some people will go, oh, it's just the Carabao Cup. But the importance of this, especially to the fans, 16 years without a trophy, this is a huge opportunity.
It is. But you see it time and time again. Premiership teams, they put out second string, rotation of players. And I don't think Angie's going to be any different. And there's a side of me that agrees, because the players, you can't expect them to come into games with no game time. Training's completely different to games, so they need games under their belt. I know they're going to get minutes in the Europa League, slightly different because there's 8 games in that. And this is just a straight knockout, one game, and that's it. I think what's going to be different this year is I think the players that he's going to bring in are possibly going to be hungrier than the ones last year. These are players perhaps that haven't had much game time at all, that want to prove themselves to Ange, that want to get into that starting lineup for the Premiership games. And let's be honest, the door's wide open for them if they want to walk through it, because some of the players out there have just not been performing. So there is space for them in that team, in the Premiership team, when we play Brentford, Manchester United, whoever, the next few games. If they want to put down a marker and get in Angie's thoughts, this is a perfect opportunity tomorrow to do that. I think it was different when we played Fulham. We'd started off really well, of course, and the team more or less picked itself at that time. This is slightly different now. If I was one of those players that are going to be coming in tomorrow night, I'm going to think, this is my chance. This is my chance. And if I do well, I'm hopefully going to be in his thoughts for Saturday. So yeah, that's why I'm not going to be too concerned if there's a fair few changes this time. But you know, we've got to have a balanced team. We've got to have. I think we've got a better squad than we had this time last year, and I expect a better team, and I expect to win tomorrow.
Now, in all competitions in the club's history, they have met 67 times. Spurs winning 30 games, Coventry winning 18, and 19 of them finishing as a draw. We last faced Coventry City in the FA Cup, actually, back in 2013, which is, 11 and a half years ago. Spurs won that game 3-0 at White Hart Lane. Now, Coventry have already played 2 games in the League Cup so far this season. In the first round, they beat Bristol City away 1-0. They beat Oxford United in the second round 1-0 at home. Their most recent result in the Championship was a 1-1 draw away at Watford. Now, they are currently sat in 14th in the Championship table, Craig. 5 points from 5 games. A very similar record to us, if you like. We're sitting in 13th in the Premier League, 4 points from 4 games. This season, they have obviously played 5 in the Championship, a 1-0 defeat away at Stoke, a 3-2 home win against Oxford, a 1-1 draw against Bristol City, a 1-0 home defeat against Norwich, and as I mentioned, a 1-1 draw away at Watford, their most recent result. What are you expecting from this Coventry side? Because we saw, their determination to come back against Manchester United in that FA Cup semi-final at the end of last season. Incredible scenes. I think all of us were glued to the TV screens that game when we saw that Coventry City had come back into that game. And I think everyone in the country was hoping that they were going to beat Manchester United and go through to the final. What did you make of it that afternoon? And what do you make of this Coventry team, and how difficult do you think this game is going to be?
I don't think it's going to be easy. But I don't think that Coventry semi-final last year, didn't they score in the last few minutes and it was ruled offside? Was it offside or a foul or something?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
I remember jumping up and celebrating as though Tottenham had just got to a final, because it was just unbelievable, and I just felt for them so much. That stunk to me, that the FA wanted, if you're a conspiracy theorist, wanted a Manchester final. I did feel for them, I really did. But it's difficult for clubs to especially the Coventrys of this world, to go on 2 fantastic cup runs in consecutive seasons. Thanks, Steve Dyer. Offside, yes, you're right, it was. I just think they're going to be concentrating on the championship, to be honest with you. Obviously, they're going to want to beat us. You don't go into a game wanting to lose, but I don't think it's going to be their priority. Look, Chris, I expect us to win this game. I've said to you before that I expect us to win these sorts of games, the games of teams that are below us. I don't get as probably excited about them as the big 6 sort of games, because I expect Tottenham to win. That's not arrogance. That's just what I expect of my team. And I expect us to beat Coventry tomorrow. It's going to be tough there because we're away. We always seem to get drawn away for some reason. Don't know why. But it's a game we should be looking to win and looking to win well. And I want to see a good performance as well.
Yeah.
So they've got to go out there and do it, though. Easier said than done.
It's fair to say, though, Craig, I know there's a lot of negativity right now amongst the fan base, and a lot of people are, giving a lot of abuse at the moment to certain players. Brennan Johnson, we'll talk about this later on. But of course, a lot of people are getting frustrated with Ange Postecoglou. It's fair to say there's a lot of comments, hundreds and thousands of comments. We did a live stream only yesterday, and the amount of comments that came in dissing Ange and the way that he is setting this team up and playing at the moment. But I believe that Spurs have played well in each and every Premier League game. I think that we just have not been clinical in that final third. A lot of us have said this. Now, the team news ahead of this Coventry game, obviously Richarlison is still out, Basuma is still out, but Ange Postecoglou hopes that he will be back for the weekend game against Brentford at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Craig, let's get your predicted lineup on the screen now. Coventry v Spurs. This is what you think Ange Postecoglou will go with. So you've gone with Forster in goal, the back 4 of Davis, Van der Ven, Dragushin and Spence. In midfield, Archie Gray, Lucas Bergvall, Papa Matasar, and then the front 3 of Wilson Odobert, Timo Werner and Dominic Solanke. Can you talk me through why you've predicted this 11?
And this is not what I want to see, by the way. This is what I think he'll go with.
I'm glad you said that.
Yeah. I just want to caveat that. I just think from everything I've heard and a little bit what I've read and just a gut feeling, I think there's going to be more than just the 2 or 3 changes that perhaps we all want. I think there's some justification in that because of performances. I think some players need to be almost dropped, if you like, and rotated, whatever way you want to look at it. I think the midfield 3, Gray, Bergvall and Sarr, if he does go with that, I think that's actually quite exciting. I could quite easily see Bergvall in the 10 there. I think he'll do a good job. And obviously Gray, quality young player. Sarr, we know all about him. Shall I discuss the whole team, Chris? Do you want me to say why I think they're coming in?
Yeah, before you do that, I just wanted to say that it's interesting because the Evening Standard, their predicted lineup today, instead of Archie Gray, just one change from yours actually. Instead of Archie Gray, they've gone with Rodrigo Bentancur. But if this is the lineup, Craig, or if it is very similar to this, will you be disappointed? I know that you've put this together. We've put it on the screen. You've said that this is not the team that you would like, to face Coventry, because when I look at this team, I would like us to go a lot stronger than this, get the job done, and then obviously bring on some of these talented players that we've got that haven't had much game time. But I'm just quite old-fashioned about that. I just want Spurs to get the job done. And not only am I old-fashioned, I've seen it many times where we haven't got the job done, and then we've had to struggle by bringing on some of the big guns from the bench, and sometimes it's been too late. Yeah.
I mean, let me I'll just go through it. What I think. I mean, I very similar to you, but look, I've put Forster in goal because I think Vicario will be rotated. It could well be Austin. In fact, I'd rather see Austin than Forster, to be honest with you. But I do think the goalkeeper is going to be rotated. I think Van der Ven keeps his place because he didn't play much football in the summer. He obviously had that injury. I think he's going to want a bit of game time. That makes sense to me. Romero didn't have his best game, and Dragusin needs game time. Happy with that. I think the two centre backs are absolutely fine. Jed Spence, you know how I feel about Jed Spence. I think he's a cracking player. I think he deserves to come in, give Porro a rest. I haven't got a problem with that at all. There will be some issues, I'm sure, with some fans if Davies covers Udogie. It could well be that he goes with Udogie. I don't know, but Davies is his deputy, I suppose. Could well go with Spence on the left and keep Porro in his place, or even move Gray out to the right back. I don't know. This is just a thought that this is what I've got a gut feel about. I've got no inside knowledge at all. I put this together actually last night. As for the front three, I'm sure it's going to please a lot of the fan base to see Werner starting. Ange hinted in the earlier press conference, I think it was, that Timo Werner, unless it was in the press conference, I can't remember, I may well have read it somewhere, that Werner needs game time, so I wouldn't be surprised at all if he starts on the left. I don't think he'll start on the right because he was abysmal on the right the other week when he came on. Odegaard needs a run. That makes sense. Haven't got a problem with that. I know he's better on the left, but if Werner's on the left, he's got to play on the right. And obviously Solanke's coming back from injury and needs game time, so it makes sense for him to hopefully get a couple of goals and build his confidence up. So I haven't got if that's the team he goes with, I personally think that's strong enough, should be strong enough to beat Coventry. But I probably wouldn't like to see that many changes. I'm with you on that, Chris.
Do you know the only thing that I would question here? You've mentioned Odegaard, he needs game time, you say. What about someone like Brennan Johnson who needs the confidence? So where you've got some of these players who are perhaps not at 100% confidence this season yet because of the way that it has gone, someone like Brennan Johnson, wouldn't it do him the world of confidence to play in this game, to do well in this game, perhaps to provide an assist or two, or even score a goal or two? Would that not benefit him more?
It would, yes, it definitely would. That would mean dropping Werner and moving Odegaard to the left, but I genuinely think that you're going to see Werner start tomorrow. That's the thing. But it does make sense. You're right. I think the best way to get out is to get out there and get your confidence back as soon as possible, because he didn't have a particularly good game on Sunday against Arsenal. He'll be chomping at the bit to get out there. I'm sure he'll be on the bench, but you're right. It could well do him a world of good if he gets out there and has a good game tomorrow night. But I've just got a feeling it's going to be he's not going to get that chance. He'll have to take it off the bench.
There's a lot of young players in there as well, Craig.
There is, yeah. And obviously, this is not what we're playing. If anybody's just tuned in, this is not like we're releasing the lineup. This is what I think Ange's going to go with, or something very similar to this.
I don't think you're going to be far off, actually.
Really, yeah. The more I think about it, the more I read and hear. Yeah, it's very similar. I saw Ali Gold did his one actually after I'd done mine today, and his is very similar to mine. I think he had Bentancur in the middle. So yeah, somebody's asking who was on my bench. Mikey Moore, 100%. I don't know if Will Lankshear's fit, and then just the usual suspects that aren't in the squad from Saturday's game. I'd probably leave out Romero completely. I still have Maddison in there just in case we need him.
I was going to ask that. Would you still let them all travel? The likes of Son, Maddison, should they still travel to be on the bench? Because, like I've said before, I remember that game very well, the Colchester defeat. The likes of Christian Eriksen on the bench, and then we had to bring him on. And it's like you need these players to then save the day, rather than the way that I'd like to see it done, of win the game first and then bring all the youngsters on. Do it the other way round.
Yeah. No, we do. I think that's important. I think your Maddisons and your Sons will travel. I think they need to travel, and I think they need to be there on the bench just in case we need them. It makes sense. And of course, to see the leadership team, or 2/3 of it at least, if Romero wants a rest, if he's tired. have them there for influence in the dressing room. I think that's important as well. These, some of these boys is going to be their first start for Tottenham this season tomorrow night. So it'll be good to have that bit of support from the older players.
Craig, today in the press conference, Ange Postecoglou answered a question about was it Vicario's fault for the Arsenal goal? Now, of course, we've had a couple of days to reflect on the incident, Gabriel's goal, Romero, Vicario, the way that the team played. Now, when you look at that again, the amount of criticism that Vicario has received in the last couple of days, particularly from a lot in the media, a lot of pundits, even Danny Murphy on TalkSport absolutely ripped Vicario apart, saying that he needs to do more and he's costing Tottenham at the moment. Ange Postecoglou said there is a collective responsibility. The Daily Mail have stated today that some people in the club have accepted that Vicario needs to do a lot more when it comes to corners, and he is very reluctant on going out and punching and catching crosses. Again, I'll ask you that same question. Is it a confidence thing, a game like this? Would it do him, good to play in games like this?
It could do. I'm just going to put the picture up of the goal just so people can see. Now you can see where the ball is there. You can see where Romero is. You can see where Vicario is. Now, for me, your goalkeeper should be coming out, screaming, clattering into his own players, smashing through them to punch that ball. It's in the 6-yard box, about 5 yards out from goal when Gabriel hits that. Yeah. He should have been. I was never a goalie, but I think he needs to be more commanding in his box. Certainly, he does look sometimes like he's all over the place, as in, he's Gary Neville hit the nail on the head, like he had frogs in his pants or something like that. He doesn't inspire me with confidence from set pieces, and that probably rubs off on the Spurs players as well. He's 27. He's an accomplished goalkeeper. He's been around for a few years now. For me, I'd like to see him a bit stronger in that situation, but that's not to say you can legislate against this marking by Romero. I know he gets a little shove in the back, but Romero needs to be stronger, in my opinion. Yeah. So it's a catalogue of errors, and I just want to see Vicario be a bit more dominating and commanding. You can't blame him totally, of course you can't. He needs to work on that, definitely. You're right. You could do with the game time to get a bit of confidence, but it's slightly different for a goalkeeper. I personally would like to see Brandon Austin given a go. I thought he was very accomplished in the friendly, so he made some great saves. A couple of them, he played well at Hearts, so I thought he was really good, and I think he deserves his chance. But like I say, it could well be Forster in goal tomorrow anyway.
Craig, we've literally got 60 seconds before we'll go to Ange Postecoglou's embargoed press conference. But what I wanted to ask is if that was the team or very similar team that will face Coventry on Wednesday evening, at what point, if Spurs do go through to the next round and progress in this competition, at what point does Ange Postecoglou start thinking, right, okay, it's now the first team. It is our best possible 11 in this team. At what point does that happen?
I think it's basically against who you draw in the next round. I really do think that it depends for me. If you draw one of the big six or a Premiership club doing well, I think you've got to play a stronger team. But you do see these.
Does it sometimes seem a little bit disrespectful to the opposition by doing that?
He can, but I don't think managers care. I don't think Ange will care. He will do what he feels the best for Tottenham Hotspur and the best for the squad. So I think I've seen managers do it in the quarterfinals, semi-finals. Probably when they get to the semi-final, they take it a bit more seriously, if you like. But I think it just depends if we get through and who we draw.
Right, Craig, let's hear from Ange Postecoglou. This is the embargoed press conference. If you are watching this live on YouTube, on X and on Facebook, this will last about 16 and a half minutes. So we will be back straight after this.
Ange, risk of irking you, Was I irked? Was I really? I'm just trying to understand. I don't think I'm irked.
I think it's the way you said it was so definitive and sort of like you were making a statement.
So
It wasn't. Let me just.
yeah, go on.
try and
No,
explain.
yeah, go on.
So it felt. Some people have suggested that it's sort of heaped unnecessary pressure on you to deliver
By stating a fact.
in the way that you did.
By stating a fact. Like, I'm not sure, what did I do? Did I unfurl banners and get a band out? Like, if somebody, like, am I supposed to say, well, that's not really relevant, or that doesn't really count, or that, you know, that's not really important? Because it is to me, because that's what I've got to rely on, is that in my 26 years of managing, I've had success, and a lot of that, most of that's come in the second year, not all of it. Sometimes happened in the first year, sometimes it's happened in the third year, that I rely on that. That's something I've achieved. And so, you know, if you won at the end of your career a couple of Pulitzers, mate, and somebody asks you, well, you know, when you've written for that thing, you've always won a Pulitzer, what would you say? Well, you know what, it's not really that important. I don't see why that puts extra, it doesn't put extra pressure on me, because I love the fact that I've done that, and that's what I want to do here. So, but, you know, I guess people, I don't know, like I said, I'd like to think that just saying the truth is the way to go forward, but, you know, I think sometimes that's too confronting for people. They'd much rather I didn't, or somebody didn't, I don't know.
And when you say, is it relevant, or what's relevant, is the fact that you've always won in your second season relevant to how you will judge yourself on this second season? Do you judge yourself against that? Because that's a hell of a standard to judge yourself with.
Yeah, it is, but that's all I've got. I don't understand, like, why.
But therefore, in your head, have you somehow failed if you don't win a trophy this season?
Yes, I failed last year in my head, because that's how I'm geared. Okay, I think I've made it pretty clear what my expectations are. Now, but that doesn't mean that I stop. You know, that just fuels the fire of, why didn't I do it? You know, why didn't we achieve last year? Why didn't we win something last year? That gets me going for this year, and this year it's about, you know, progress. So I don't, you know, that's been my whole career. So I have that, like, that's my foundation. That's what I keep saying to people. That's why I'm sitting here. Like, there's no other way I could have got here. No chance. In any universe, I could have got here from Australia, be sitting here answering questions from you, in one of the, you know, biggest clubs in the world, in the best competition in the world, if I didn't have some sort of self-belief based on something of substance. I wasn't going to get here with my charm and good looks, mate.
But if you're judging yourself against that, is it fair for other people to judge you on that therefore?
Yeah, I've never sort of tried to steer it. I mean, okay, you guys have had 13, 14 months with me. Have I ever downplayed anything? No. So I'm willing to be measured against that. That means that I'm fair game. And again, I've never said not to. You know, now how you know, come to your summary at the end, that's as much on you as it is on me. You can make your assessment on just one thing or many things, or, you know, but I'm happy to be sort of judged against that standard, because that's my standard. That's what I've done in the past, and I don't want to dilute that, because then I miss the opportunity of continuing the road that I've been on. So I have no problems with people sort of using that as a yardstick. I will say, we're 4 games into a season. You know, it's pretty early. So I remember I was up in Scotland. They ruled me out after 2 games. I was gone. You know, it was all over in a year we won the double. So, but I get it. Like I said, I just find that, you know, look, it's just me. I'm going to be me. I'm going to say things the way I've always said them, and I'm not going to change. Yeah.
Is it also, just look, finally for me, is it also...
You jumped in on Tom's side. Sure.
Is it also part of you shifting the culture here slightly? Because I've covered this club for a long time, and I've always felt the T word can be a dirty word around this place.
Which
People get
team?
scared by the T word, trophies.
Okay, all right, good. I'm glad you
And
clarified.
they
Yeah.
worry where you're going with the T word sometimes.
Yeah.
When you talk about it. And I wonder whether that's part
Yeah.
of you changing mindsets too.
Well, maybe, yeah, but it's still me. Like I'm not putting it on. That's the thing. I've never tried to sort of just do it as a tactic. It's why I keep saying it's why I came here. I came here to try and win things for the club. I think that should be our measure. And if we fall short of that, then we've fallen short, and we need to be better and improve. And that's up to me under my tenure to try and achieve that. And I don't think there's anything wrong with embracing that. I mean, I'd be surprised if anyone can dig up anything I've said in the last sort of 13, 14 months where I've tried to downplay anything. Even when we started well last year, I was saying, well, mate, if people want to dream about us winning things, let's let them go for it. It's just the way I'm wired. I think it's the way forward, and I think you need to embrace that if you want to become a successful club and not shy away from it. It's easy to look. Not it's easy. I shouldn't say that, but if I came out here and said, "Look, this is going to take 3 or 4 years," it would relieve pressure. But I don't want to wait 3 or 4 years. This year's an opportunity, and then if we do well this year, next year's an opportunity. So that's the way I think about it.
The last 15 years or so of this competition has been won pretty much by United, City, Liverpool, Chelsea. So the richest clubs, and people might look at that and say, well, maybe it's too much for a club with Tottenham's financial resources to do it. It seems too daunting. Do you just stray away from that? Is that why you think it's too dangerous?
Well, I just think there are plenty of reasons why we can't be successful. So there's no point focusing on those. Like there's countless reasons why you could say, this club won't win something. I think I've always tried to focus on, well, the way I see it, there is no impediments for us winning anything we want to, if we're prepared to plan for it and be really bold in our approach in trying to achieve that. I don't think there's anything limiting this club having success. I really don't believe that. That's why I'm here. But that doesn't mean we're ready for it now. Just means that that's what we should be striving for.
Just on being ready for it now, because you said you don't want to wait. You said after the game the other day, the team, that conviction, which is a recurring theme at times. It's a young squad, that's consistent and happens. But do you feel from what you've seen so far that particularly attacking players have what it takes this year to achieve what you want?
Yeah, look, I don't think I mean, when I look at it, like, I think there is so much more upside. We're nowhere near capacity in terms of the players we have there at the moment. I mean, Dom Solanke is an obvious one. Richie hasn't even played yet. I think it's fair to say Sonny's had a sort of stop-start to the season. I think he hasn't hit the consistent levels. So I think the other guys like Brennan and Wilson, and I think there's a lot of growth in them. And Timo hasn't had much of an opportunity. I look at our attacking sort of midfield players again. I think there's massive upside in Kulusevski. I'm just seeing more and more growth in him in that sort of attacking midfield role. So I think, I definitely think there's capacity there for us to improve in that area for sure, 100%. And I think, Dom and even Richie, just having a focal point up there, that's the reason we signed him, is going to make a big difference to us in that area. So I think there is we have at present enough there for us to kind of overcome the deficiencies we have at the moment through, like I said, more a lack of sort of fluency and cohesion in that front third. We just haven't been able to sort of nail on a sort of a formation there that'll give us some consistency.
Just finally, a specific question about Brennan.
Yeah.
You as a manager will know what it's like to get flack from fans when it's not going well
Yeah.
or whatever. But it looks like he's turned off his Instagram account because of fan abuse. Not quite clear if that is the case, but it probably is the case. I mean, does that just go with the territory of being a high-level player?
Yeah. I hope not. I hate how we've just normalised all that stuff. I mean, look, like you said, I've been around long enough, and even when I was playing, I copped a fair bit, but it was usually over, in the terraces, and then the game was over, and you'd go home, and you after a while, because when people at the game, obviously they get a bit frustrated if you're not playing well, and they give you some fairly direct feedback. I've had all that, but I hate how now young people. Now, you're talking about a young guy who, probably lacking a bit of confidence at the moment. Things haven't gone his way, but he comes here every day. He's working his backside off. He's asking for feedback. He's doing everything right. He's trying so hard to become the player he wants to be. It's hurting him a lot. It's not like he's out on the town and he doesn't care and he rolls up late. So what's his crime? His crime is that he isn't performing at the level that people expect of him. And I think as a professional footballer, you've got to expect that you're going to get criticism about that. And that's part of your growth. And still a young player, and I think there is so much more in Brennan that we're going to bring out in him. But it's sad for me that we've kind of normalised that stuff. That that getting abuse, and it is abuse, and a lot of it personal is, well, that's just part of the territory. I don't see that. I mean, I don't cop it anymore. Like, if somebody's abusive to me, they're going to hear it back, because I just don't believe that that's right. I'll take criticism because that's my role, and scrutiny, you have to. I think that's your role, but I've got no time for abuse. And unfortunately, the young people today, they are on these social platforms. It's easy for me. I can switch off, and my one follower doesn't get upset by it. But, for young guys today, it's part of their world. They seem to get some sort of enjoyment from it. I don't understand it, but they do. And again, the fact that they've got to sort of limit their world, close their world a little bit because of, I mean, what kind of person just writes abusive things to an individual? Like I said, criticism is one thing. Exasperation at a game is, you've got to almost accept that. But to sit down and write something abusive anonymously where, say it in front of me, you'll get a punch on the nose, you won't do it again, mate, but they won't do that. They'll hide behind this. So I hate that it's normalised, but unfortunately that's the world we live in. And like I said, for me, when I look at Brennan, I see a young man he's trying his hardest to be the best he can be. Doesn't always guarantee success, and it's part of his journey is how he deals with all this. But mate, he's a great kid. He's a great footballer, and I've got I'm very optimistic about what he's going to do for us.
And just to revisit the T word, if I may, you're not the only big club that has gone a few years without winning a major trophy. Everton have got 29 years. Newcastle is up to 55, I think, so far. 16 years since Tottenham won a trophy. And obviously you're not responsible for that, you've only been here 18 months or less. Is it time that Tottenham Hotspur won another trophy? Is 16 years too long for a club of this size not to exercise the silver polish, as they say?
In isolation, yes, because I think, with the fan base it has, and they've seen other clubs, of similar stature win trophies in that time. I say yes. I think you've always got to put into context the fact that, there's a period in there where they got very close, and we know in football it's fine margins sometimes between success and failure. It's not like it hasn't been, at the doorstep of success during that time. So you've got to say, okay, well, it hasn't been a total waste of 16 years. They built a stadium within that time, which it's not just costs money, it is disruptive. And other clubs that have gone through a similar process, and other clubs who will go through a similar process, will see that, that doesn't really gear you up for success necessarily, makes it a little bit harder. So there's context to those 16 years, but if you're a supporter of this club and you've seen others do that in the last 16 years, then I think they would say, yeah, look, it is time. And that's, like I said, that's kind of my responsibility whilst I'm in this chair to try and change that. And I think to change that, you need to, you need to kind of change, the way you approach things as well, because ultimately, if you just keep doing the same thing, you're going to get the same outcome.
One last one. hindsight's a wonderful thing.
It's a beautiful thing. Yeah.
If you could turn the clock back, would you have made 9 changes at Fulham last season, gone out of the first hurdle? Because ultimately Fulham went on to reach the semi-finals.
Yeah, which means they're a pretty good side, and we were playing them at their place, and we lost on penalties. So again, hindsight's a beautiful thing, and rewriting of history is a beautiful thing. But we had in fact, we had a very experienced lineup on the night. It was kind of very early in the season where we needed to get some game time into some players. It wasn't like I put kids out there. I put out a very strong lineup, and we lost on penalties. So I didn't dismiss that game. I didn't, underestimate that game. I didn't go in that game thinking that it's okay if we lose. We desperately wanted to win, but we were very early in a season where, with a brand new squad, some brand new players, who just arrived. We still put out a strong lineup, but we lost on penalties against a Premier League side away from home. I don't think that shows that we kind of underestimated the fixture, even in hindsight.
Craig, there is a lot to talk about in that press conference there. What did you make of it?
I agree with what a lot he said, especially about Brendan Johnson. And I will come on to that in a minute. Totally agree with what he said there. He's very, he's stubborn, but he seems to have belief in what he's doing still. We know he's not for changing. He's not going to change his ethos, his philosophy, the way he wants to play, and he will pick the team tomorrow regardless of what any of us want him to do. And that's why he hinted there there is going to be changes tomorrow. I think there were some awkward questions for him there, the reporters posed to him. Obviously, asking him about the trophies and said how much he wins in the second season, that he came out and said that. He did say that, and he's standing by it. So fair play to him, because obviously if we don't win anything this season, then he's not going to look foolish as such, but people will perhaps be questioning him a bit. But I'm still behind Ange. I know some sections of the fan base aren't. I've seen people calling for his head. I'm not quite sure what we do if the club pulls the trigger and sack him. I just haven't got the strength for another rebuild. We're over a year into this already. We've got to give the manager time. We've got to give the project time, or else it's just constantly resetting it, and we never, ever, ever get anywhere, go forward or anything. So it's about time we stuck with a manager and stuck with the process, and see where it takes us.
I feel like he's kind of saying there when he said, I will try and change it about winning trophies, because of course, Craig, we speak on this channel every week about the lack of trophies. Of course, we've waited 16 long years and counting. He said, the club need to change the way that you approach things. That is kind of saying to me that he's saying, give me time, back me, because things have gone round in circles in recent seasons. And when you think back to someone like Jose Mourinho, about, he's gone to every single club and won a trophy at every single club where he's gone. And Postecoglou, I don't know why it's been made, such a big thing by all of the journalists and a lot of the media outlets, because he has purely just stated a fact. It is a fact. He always wins in his second year. So he has stated a fact. One thing I did want to talk about, and one thing that did upset me a lot last season, is the amount of changes that he did make at Fulham. Now, he was asked that right at the end of this Embargoed press conference, and he said, we had a very experienced lineup. Now, I get that. It was an experienced lineup, but sometimes it's not about the experience, is it? It's about the quality.
Yeah, absolutely. Just because you're experienced doesn't mean to say that you should be first choice on the team sheet. Too many players on that night just didn't perform and didn't play well. As Mofo says, Lo Celso was poor in that game. He was. Didn't Maddison come on in the second half, I think? And the game, it was one of those games where it was a difficult game to come into and influence the game, it was a horrible game to watch, wasn't it? It's just didn't get going, didn't get any moves going. The passing wasn't all that, and obviously we scored, but you just had a feeling when it went to penalties, and you kind of knew what was going to happen. I mean, even the toss of the coin for the penalties didn't work out, so it was down our end kicking towards the Spurs fans. Everything went wrong that night, and look, it could have, on any other day, it could have gone the other way. And Davinson Sanchez scores his penalty and Forster saves one. I don't think he was near any of them. He didn't get near any of them, did he? But that's why, coming back to the point about putting players out there, I think the second string, if you like, I think the team he's going to put out tomorrow is going to be stronger and hungrier, more importantly, tomorrow night, and should get the job done.
He was asked, has it been a waste of 16 years? And Postecoglou said about building a stadium. Of course, all of us are very happy that we've moved into the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, but I think a lot of fans have expected more since that time of moving in terms of, ambition and the types of players that we have brought in. But Ange again has said that, happy with the transfer window, happy with the way that things have gone, and he doesn't see, any problem about getting success in the future at the football club. Do you genuinely believe, Craig, that he is happy with the transfer window? Because as you pointed out to me the other day a number of times, and we've spoken about this a number of times, Dominic Solanke was the only change to a team that we had last year on Sunday.
Yeah. I honestly can't tell. I can't tell whether he's happy. If he's not happy with it, he doesn't strike me as the person that would come out in a press conference or anything like that where he would come out and say, "No, I think we're 2 players short or 3 players short. I'm a bit gutted we didn't get Eze, blah, blah, blah." He's not going to come out and say that. From what, I don't know how true this is, but I read it that they had a gentleman's agreement with Eze in the summer, and Ange turned around and said he wanted Solanke instead. So if that is true, and this is all hearsay, I've no idea if that is true, then it's quite clear he wanted the striker over the playmaker midfielder. Personally, if that is true, I'd want to see us go for both of them. To be honest, that's the sort of club that shows ambition. And it comes back to this thing we've discussed many times. You always feel any transfer window over the last, as long as I can remember, we're 2 or 3 players short. And I still think we're 2 or 3 players short. We could have gone and got Eze this summer as well. We could have perhaps pushed for Tony as well as Solanke. We could have pushed for another a winger or a left back or somebody else, a monster number 6 in the middle. We could have done that, and that's the sort of players I think we're short. And that's what I wanted to see us do in the transfer window. I was so surprised we didn't bring in a big name, proven Premiership player in the summer. I was gutted we didn't do that, because you just get the feeling, as we've discussed, that we was going to be short, and I still think we are.
Craig, Ange also said that he tells the truth. Have I ever downplayed anything? No. Are you surprised on how the fans have turned on him so quickly? Because, when I put the press conference out earlier, a number of the comments were, quite abusive towards Ange Postecoglou. And when you think only a couple of months ago, when a press conference was released on YouTube, most of the Spurs fans were watching them. They were engaging with them. They loved what the manager had to say. They were hanging on every single word that Ange Postecoglou had to say. And it seems that it's so different. And we are only 4 Premier League games in. What do you think the main difference and the main change has been? Why do you think that so many fans are no longer on board?
I think it's because the fans, and I include me in this, you and all of us, I think we all had high expectations this season. I think we could see that as far as we know, that he was targeting certain positions and a specific player for that position. He didn't. If he couldn't get that player, he didn't want anybody. Just, you know, it wasn't just a name coming in. He wanted his players, and we could see something being built. We could see the ethos and what he wanted to mould in this Postecoglou team, and he's now got more or less his players. You have to say this is his squad now, getting towards it. We're still few short, as I said, but I think we looked at when the fixtures come out. We thought okay, the first few fixtures are games we could look to do well in, or obviously Newcastle away has not been kind, but like to think we had a better chance up there. North London derby, of course, a bit too early in the season for me. I'd have liked it a bit later on, but certainly the first couple of games, the Leicester and obviously Everton, I think people thought that we could get 6 points from there and possibly 9 if you include Newcastle. I mean, look, football's such a game of fine margins. It could have been, it should have been. We should have been sitting here with 9 points going into the Arsenal game. North London derby, you never can tell. You never can tell. But we pushed them. They're one of the best teams in the country, and they weren't all over us. Now, you could argue that Arsenal let us play like that. That was their tactic. And they said, go on, Spurs, you have the ball. We're quite comfortable. You're not going to get behind us. You're not going to score against us. And we'll let you on the break or have a set piece. It turned out it was a set piece that was our undoing. But I think the performances haven't been terrible. Obviously, Arsenal wasn't brilliant, but you got to remember that who you're playing against. That's the best team we've played this season, and it could have been 9 points from 9 leading the North London derby. And I think the mood would have been completely different. Stepping back and looking at it, obviously I've been frustrated. I've said, oh God, you know, we've lost this game, drawn that game. It's there. It's just not clicked. And as Ange said there, the lack of cohesion in the front three. For me, he's spot on there, and he's honest about that. The lack of cohesion, and we've been without Solanke. I just don't think he's found that formula yet.
But are you worried about that Ange keeps saying that? Because this is not the first time, and it won't be the last time. I've no doubt at all, Craig, that he is talking about that lack of success in that final third. He was saying that very, very early on in his Spurs career. Even, you know, during those 10 games that we were unbeaten, there is so much more growth to come in that final third. I feel like he has said that press conference after press conference. He has said exactly the same thing. Of course, we have bought Solanke. Heung-min Son, of course, we're hoping to see a lot more of him this season. Brennan Johnson, who Ange spoke about, said that, you know, very truly and very rightly about you know, who sits behind computers abusing a youngster like Brennan Johnson, because you know, he's not delivering what they expect, but he is working his backside off, Angie's words. What do you make of the whole Brennan Johnson situation? Because we did speak about this on the podcast the other day. I know you weren't on this particular podcast. Gary was quite adamant that you know, it's just what happens. I didn't agree. I don't agree that anyone should be abused online. You know, even us doing this podcast, you know, sometimes we get abuse from people. I don't tolerate it. I just block people and move on. Life's too short. You know, you don't like what I do, you move on. But with someone like Brennan Johnson, a young footballer, you know, going home, and Andrew's right, you know, it's the only way to get to a celebrity or a footballer or someone, you know, very well known like Brennan Johnson, to go on his Instagram and write comments and give the guy abuse. But the fact that he has had to actually deactivate his account, what do you make of it all, Craig?
I think it's very sad. Perhaps I come from a different generation, but I just don't know what goes through people's minds to sit there and think, do you know what? I think you were shit today, so I'm going to actually tell you you're shit. And by the way, I'm actually a fan of the club that you play for. I just don't get it. I don't know what it achieves. I just don't understand it, because I'd never do it. I just don't get the logic behind it. I don't know how you're helping the situation. I don't know how you're helping improve him as a player. What I'd love to see is people going, messaging players who have not had a bad game and turn around and say, look, we're behind you. I know you didn't have a good game today, but crack on, we're all behind you. Don't you think that would have a better impact on people? A bit of kindness over just hatred? And I don't get it. I know that seems a bit woke, and believe me, I'm not woke. I'm not politically correct. I just don't get this attitude of people nowadays that think it's right to go online and abuse people that they don't know, give them advice over a game, and the job they're trying to do, they can't do half as well as this person's trying to do. I totally agree what Ange said. If he was going out there moping around like Ndombele was, then you could kind of understand why people get a lot more frustrated. But Brennan Johnson is trying. He is trying every single game, and it might not be coming off. But the way to, it's not the way to encourage and make better a 22-year-old lad who's playing football for your club. I just think it's utterly disgusting. People go online and write horrible things on their social media, and I don't care if people abuse me for saying this, but because it's truly what I believe. I think it's disgusting. If you do it, you're disgusting. I'm sorry, because you wouldn't like it. If that was your son, you wouldn't like it. If it was your daughter, you wouldn't like it, and you wouldn't tolerate it. You should be encouraging our players. If you don't like their performance, just keep quiet. Talk about your mates down the pub about it, but don't actually go and at them in things and tell them that, oh, you're crap, get out of my club. You're not helping. You're part of the problem. Absolutely part of it. I think it's, honestly, social media has got brilliant points. It connects people all around the world. It's opened up different worlds to everybody. But there's a side of social media that's toxic, that's disgusting, that's horrible. And it's things like this, when players need to delete their social media, that's supposed to be an entryway into reacting with fans, and all they do is get abuse. It's not for me. It's not for me. And I hope Brennan Johnson gets back to playing good football, gets his confidence back, because people writing crap on his Instagram is not helping matters. And it's all very well saying ignore it. It's all very well saying he's not going to be able to block everybody, and that's why he's deleted it, because why would you want to log on and see that every day from people you don't know? It's horrible. It really is.
Yeah. Yeah, well said. Of course, Ange Postecoglou said that he is a young guy lacking in confidence. It's hurting him a lot. And of course, a lot of people don't see the hard work he is putting in training. But of course, this is a player that Ange Postecoglou has brought in, and we hope to see vast improvements on the pitch, Craig, because I think that we have been quite critical of Brennan Johnson on previous podcasts. But I know you've gone down the whole woke avenue. We're certainly not like this on this channel, but hailing abuse at people on social media, it's not for me. Never done that sort of thing, and don't agree with anyone that does so. And also spoke out about the final third again, and said about Dominic Solanke and Richarlison. Of course, we've spoken at length about the Richarlison situation. Frustrating. We want to see that player that we bought from Everton. We want to see that Everton Richarlison in our team constantly, causing the defence's problems. And of course, we saw him score a number of goals last season. We want to see more of that. But sadly, he's out injured again. Craig, what have you made of Dominic Solanke? Because, of course, he's only played 2 games so far. In 2 frustrating games, actually. The Leicester one, opening Premier League game, and, of course, the Arsenal one. This game against Coventry, I feel, is like the perfect opportunity. You've put him in your predicted 11. I hope that Ange will play him because, of course, he spent a month out. He should definitely be on the team sheet, shouldn't he, for this match?
100%. He just looked on Sunday. He looked like a rusty player coming back from injury. He did. You saw in that bit you showed last night, I think, on the pod. It looks like he had loads of time, and he did have a lot of time, as much as a striker can get in the Premier League, for that shot in the first half. Yeah, that's the one. Now, he looks there like he's in loads of space, and he is. Obviously, when you run it on in full time, when you're watching the video, the Arsenal defender. I can't tell which one it was. It might have been Gabriel. He's a fast player. He closed him down pretty quick. But Brennan Johnson took a couple of touches to get it under control and set himself. And by the time he did, the chance had gone. I think he'll get sharper as the season goes on. I think we've got to believe in him. He's had 2 games, you know, and he was injured for part of the first one. Had some good chances in the Leicester game. It's just such a shame that header didn't go in for him. Half chances. He had a header that looped nearly went in the far corner at the weekend. But you're right. This is a really good opportunity for Brennan Johnson to hopefully get a couple of goals and kick on and get his confidence up. Because when you get a centre forward that's got confidence, it only needs one to go in off his backside or something like that. Having played there, and you go games and games without scoring, the longer it goes on, the worse it gets. So if he can grab a goal tomorrow, that will do wonders, and I'm sure you'll see a different player in the next couple of games.
Craig, what do you make of the Embargoed press conference where Ange is constantly asked about the T word, the trophies? You know, of course, we haven't won one in 16 years, but he come out and said, "I've come here to win trophies." And he still seems pretty confident, you know, coming out with the words that I fouled last year. You know, we go again this year. What do you honestly feel about our chances of winning a trophy? Because, you know, I'm normally very positive, and you know, my saying used to be the trophies are coming. I've dropped it. I've dropped it for some time. But when you think of, you know, most of that team that you put up that you think that will play against Coventry on Wednesday, that's, you know, basically our bench. So imagine 1 or 2 injuries, either in the first team or let's call them the bench. Okay, so 1 or 2 injuries, even on Sunday. And I don't want to be super negative on this podcast, far from it. I want Spurs to do very well this season. I want us to win on Wednesday, and I want us to turn things around, beat Brentford on Saturday, and the fan base, you know, start smiling again. But when you look at this squad, 1 or 2 injuries, it could have a real effect on our season. Again, exactly the same as last year. And again, I go back to the transfer window, should have done more.
Yep, 100%. As I've said, Mickey van der Ven is intrinsic to this team. He's so important to the way we play. If he gets injured, I think it weakens us significantly. I think if Solanke gets injured, as long as Richarlison's fit, at least Richarlison comes in and is a centre forward. I still don't think he's the answer, but at least he is a centre forward. And hopefully, I want to see Will Lancashire get some game time as well this season and push Richarlison for that, because it's clear Solanke's the first choice. It would be great to see Lancashire get a bit of game time and push Richarlison for that second striker spot. But it all comes back to the fact that I think we're a little bit light in certain areas and a few players short. I really do.
But what about game changers, Craig? Because even on Sunday, when we're talking about the last 10, 20 minutes of like, let's change this North London derby up, let's try and get a goal, you know, let's do something different. I know we had Wilson Odebear who came on, 10 minutes to go, Timo Werner came on. A lot of people were like, oh, you know, I just feel like we need a lot more quality. I know the January transfer window is not very far away, and you know, Andrew's done a fantastic job in terms of you know, offloading a number of players. But again, I don't want to keep harping on about, you know, should have done more in the transfer window. But we're only 4 games in, and everyone's saying, "Where's the game changer from the bench? Where's the quality from the bench?" You know, when you're thinking about that, Europe's just round the corner as well. It's a long old season.
It certainly is. I would say we're probably not the only club in that bracket. I'm sure a lot of clubs look at their bench and think, who's the game changers on the bench? But we did have the opportunity, like I say, for the Eze's, the Tonys even, you know, we could have gone and got a couple of more attacking players, game changers, like you say, some different options. Odebear, I think, is going to come good. There is a lot of youngsters in this team, and I don't think you're going to see the best of them for a few years. That's the thing. This squad he's young. I don't know what the average age is. It must be. If you take Son and Forster out of it, for example, I think the average age is probably early 20s.
What I always said though, Craig, is if we have a few bumps in the road, a few dodgy results here and there, you don't want this young team like Brennan Johnson to be getting the abuse that he has received, because we know that, you know, what football fans can be like. We've seen it all before about players getting abuse in recent years and being the scapegoats in some of these teams under various different managers that we've had. That's why I feel like we should have brought in a couple more experienced players. And you know what? One interesting comment this is. Glenn Hoddle, one of our greatest ever players, has come out today and said that Spurs don't have any players that have the X factor right now. Is that a fair comment?
Probably. Yeah, you would have put Son in that bracket. You would have done. But he's not really been at it 100% like we know Son can be. So you can't say that he's got that sort of X factor. I'd love to put James Maddison in that bracket, but again, he's not performed to that level. I thought he was. The first 10 games last year, I thought he was sensational. I think he was all gutted when he got injured at Chelsea, and you can see the drop-off. Such a shame. He's obviously had his confidence knocked and not getting in that England squad and wants to get back in the England fold, but he's just not quite clicked for him yet. X factor, I guess he's talking about players that excite you, and that's generally going to be an attacking midfielder, a winger or a striker. I would say Mickey van der Ven excites me. When I watch him in full flight, I just think he's brilliant when he runs back, makes the tackle, pushes somebody off the ball. If a defender can have an X factor, I would say Mickey van der Ven is that defender. But you usually, like I say, associate it with forward-thinking players like your Messis and your Ronaldos and your Bales and your Kanes and Haalands and players like that, and Mbappe, you know. So I agree with him, though. Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, do you think we got any players that got X factor?
I think there's a lot more to come from the likes of Heung-min Son. I think there's a lot more to come from James Maddison, and we've got to start relying on some of these players to perform. And you know, some of these players need to step up. And it's interesting because, as I said on the podcast the other day, Craig, that Heung-min Son come out and said the players need to take responsibility. And we normally hear this term when we've gone out of a cup in, say, January, February, March time. And, you know, the players have felt down. We've seen it all before under various different managers. I don't recall seeing it after 4 matches of a Premier League season. And it's up to Sonny now. He's the captain. He's the leader. He's got to go in that dressing room and G every single player up and make sure everyone is giving 100% and everyone is up for every single game. And every game is extremely important. You know my thoughts on the North London derby on Sunday, because before the game, I don't like, you know, I'm very much like Roy Keane in that aspect. Let's go to war. You know, even when I used to play football, only at Sunday league level, but whenever we used to walk on that pitch, I didn't ever talk to any opposition. It was just like, you know, me against you, and that's it. Game on. There weren't any friendliness. So I don't get that in a North London derby. I don't like to see that, or this hugging. I completely agree with Roy Keane on that point.
Yeah, I am. You know, it's sort of thing. If you want to do it afterwards, fine, but not in. There is a great clip somewhere of Roy Keane. Somebody trying to talk to Roy Keane when he's lining up for. I think they playing Arsenal. I think it was. Do you remember at the time when it was him versus Vieira, and they absolutely hated each other? You could see in Roy Keane's eyes. You know,
it's one of the most played clips. Yeah, it's one of the most played clips on the internet. And if anyone hasn't seen it, do check that out on YouTube, because that is, that's how I want to see my team. You know, riled up and ready to go to war and ready to win that game of football, because it's extremely important to everyone all around the world. Craig, lastly, I was going to ask you about Anne saying in the Embargoed press conference there, they ruled me out after 2 games in Scotland. And of course, he then went on to win the double. We've spoke to Ali, of course, friend of the show, Ali Ross, been on a couple of times, great guest, good friend of ours. And he spoke about everyone doubting him when he arrived at Celtic. Ange has spoken out a number of times in a number of press conferences since being appointed as Spurs boss about the doubters. He's proved everybody wrong. Every journalist I spoke to who has covered Ange in his career have all said everyone doubted him. He loves to be doubted. Well, a lot of people are doubting him now. How does he turn those Spurs fans around, and quite quickly? Is it all just about winning games? Is it about style? What is it about?
I don't think anybody can moan about the style, because everybody was moaning about the Conte and Mourinho football, saying how boring it was, and now we've suddenly playing this fast front foot attacking football. I remember coming back on here, and actually it was a conversation I had with my son actually after the Euros. You know, we spent 5-6 games watching England play, you know, slow, lethargic football. Yeah, we got to the final, but ultimately didn't win. And I remember that first friendly against Hearts, wasn't it? I think we played first. Yeah. And my son looked at me and he said, "Oh my God, it's great to have Ange ball back," and because it was just quicker, faster, players moving. It was just a joy to watch. What Ange has got to do is just win football matches, and I think it's as simple as that. He's got look. We all know how we've done in the past seasons. I mean, I'll just show you this quickly. Everybody knows this. This is our finishing position for the last 10 seasons. You can see on the right-hand side that column. 3rd, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 6th, 7th, 4th, 8th, 5th, and then obviously where we are this year. So if he can get up there in the sort of Poch era, if you like, 3rd, 2nd, if he can get us into the Champions League or by that, and that means winning games, I think he's going to have a lot more people behind him. He's going to have a lot more. Hopefully, he wins this fan base back. The trouble is, I think it's always our games against other Big Six clubs. I don't like that phrase, the Big Six, but we are part of it. And as you can see here, this isn't. It's supposed to be a bit more positive, but look, facts are facts. I put this together because it shows our record over the last 20 times we've played these teams: Man City, Liverpool, Man U, Arsenal and Chelsea. And apologies for viewers on for listeners on audio for this. It's a table of how we've achieved over the 100 games. This is taken into account all the times we've played Chelsea, Arsenal, Man U, Liverpool and City, and City have played Liverpool, Man U have played Liverpool. You know, so we've all played each other 100 times. And as you can see, we're at the bottom of that list with 104 points. City, as you'd expect, the top. But we are way at the bottom of that list. And it's quite stark when I put that together. It's quite clear, isn't it, Chris? You know, these are the games we've got to improve in the most, because it's quite clear if we want to be at the top of the league, we've got to start getting results at the Chelseas and the Liverpools and that, where we've obviously not done very well, have we? So
you only need to look.
What do you think of that?
Yeah, you only need to look, Craig. Arsenal in number 4 there. Of course, we only won once at Highbury in the Premier League. We've only won once at the Emirates in the Premier League since they moved in 2006. So in the last 18 years, 1 league win there. Chelsea, wow, what a terrible record we have at Stamford Bridge. You know, 1 win since 1990, not good enough. Manchester United, we've had opportunities to win there at Old Trafford, and even last season drew 2-2. Got to do better there. We've got them coming up very, very soon. Liverpool, we very, very rarely get anything up at Anfield. That drive back from Anfield year after year after year just gets worse and more painful as the years go on. Manchester City, I feel like we have competed well with them in recent years. Even beat them at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium under Nuno Espirito Santo. But yeah, you're absolutely right. And thank you so much for putting this together, Craig, because I know how many hours this took you. So thank you so much for all of your input on that. But yeah, we certainly need to do better against these bigger teams. What do you make of the criticism of Heung-min Son, lastly, Craig? Because again, I go back to the question that I asked you a couple of times during this podcast. Is this the sort of game, Coventry? Is this the sort of game like Sonny? when he's got that confidence, he's got that huge smile on his face, and I feel like his aura, you know, around everybody else gets everyone else going. So him as captain, should he be involved in this game against Coventry? Because I know I keep saying it's a huge game. Some people might not see it as a huge game, third round of the Carabao Cup. But the way that the journalist kept saying to Ange Postecoglou in that embargoed press conference, you know, about trophies, it's like all of us keep saying, when are we going to win a trophy? When are we going to take these things seriously? You know, what is the definition, I suppose, another question for you, what's the definition of taking these competitions seriously?
That's a really good question. A lot of people would say putting out your strongest 11, which I think we know is not going to happen. You're taking it seriously. I think putting out a team capable of winning the tie, going back to Sonny, you could argue that this is the perfect game for him. You could argue is what we've been talking about before. We want to see us go strong. You almost want to see the same team you put out Sunday go out there, because they need the confidence going into the weekend's game. I get that. It would be a good. I think Sonny will come on. I don't think he'll start. I think he will come on. I do, tomorrow night, for that very reason, if anything else.
Yeah,
I think you might see him through the middle. You might see him replace Solanke after 80 minutes. But then again, I think Solanke stayed on the whole game, didn't he, on Sunday? So, you know, Ange obviously sees him as fit enough to do that. But look, if Son, I want to see Heung-min Son lead this team. I want to see Heung-min Son. There's nothing I want to see better than Heung-min Son lift a trophy.
Yep.
It would be just another class player leave this club or retire without lifting a trophy. We've been through the names. We know the names that have come to this club over the years that have not won anything. Gareth Bale, Christian Eriksen, Harry Kane, Hugo Lloris, Toby Alderweireld, Jan Vertonghen.
Don't, Craig. We're gonna be here all night.
Yeah, you could, couldn't you? It's like, it's incredible, and these players seem to go other places and win trophies, as we've said a million times.
Yeah.
But Sonny, nothing better than seeing Sonny with a smile on his face. Hopefully, he'll be able to perhaps come on tomorrow and grab an assist or a goal, and we'll see that smile again.
Tim Sherwood today said, I love Ange Postecoglou. I think the fans need to get behind him. I don't see a boring game of Tottenham anymore, but they do need to start winning games. You need a clinical edge, and you need to start putting the ball in the back of the net. Craig, we had a super guest on who provided a video for this channel, Alex Craig, a Coventry City fan. He has predicted a 2-2 draw, and he has predicted penalties on Wednesday. He thinks that the atmosphere is going to be good at the Coventry Building Society arena on Wednesday, and it's going to be an interesting one. I'll be making my way up there on Wednesday afternoon, so hopefully I'll be smiling on the podcast on Wednesday evening. As I'll be coming out the ground, I know that you will be starting to host the show, so thank you so much for that. Before you do go, give me your score prediction. I'm going to go for a 2-0 Spurs win. I'm going to go for a comfortable 2-0. I know it's brave, me going for a clean sheet, but I think that this could be the start of turning our season around, and hopefully it will be a good week, and hopefully that we can get the 3 points as well in the Premier League against Brentford on Saturday. I know it's a big ask, but at some point this does need to turn around. At some point we do need to be clinical in that final third, and I am predicting a first goal in a Spurs shirt for Dominic Solanke on Wednesday evening against Coventry. What are you going to go for?
Well, I agree with what Alice has just put in the chat there. I think it's going to be 3-1. I think it's going to be a tight game up to a point. I think we're going to dominate possession, as you would expect. I think Coventry are going to be compact. They're going to be stingy, but I think eventually we'll make the breakthrough, which means they've got to come out, and that's when we'll go on and score a couple of goals. I think Solanke's going to get a couple tomorrow night. I do. And like you, that can only be a good thing for the weekend. Hopefully no injuries. and we'll progress the next round of the Cup and get a favourable draw in the next round. Let's hope so.
Yes, absolutely. Let's hope the Spurs are going all the way to Wembley.
Oh, a home draw would be nice in the next round if we get through. So, yeah, that would be nice.
Yes.
Yeah, Wembley, my word. Yeah.
And then Europe is just round the corner. The games are coming thick and fast. These podcasts, Craig, are coming thick and fast, especially the ones in between the games as well.
They certainly are. And, I got my tickets for Carabao. So I'm looking forward to seeing European football back at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. So that'll be good. I think it's important that we get off to a win there in that game. Expecting a strong performance and a strong team to be put out there. So I do love it. I know the players moan about, the managers moan about the amount of games, but for a fan, it's fantastic to see game after game after game, one every 3 or 4 days, and that's what it's going to be like. Thank you, Roy. That's what it's going to be like now, up until, certainly till the next international break in October. Looking forward to it.
That's a good point. Now, I was going to say, Craig, that's a good point that Spurs go on a winning run up until the international break, because we do not want to go into the international break with a lot of negativity again. No,
absolutely, and I think. Have you got our fixtures in front of you, Chris? Because obviously I know up until the next international break, are they? Obviously, we've got Coventry tomorrow, and then we've got Brentford, and then we've got Carabao, and then we've got Manchester United.
That's right.
Who we got after Man U?
After Manchester United, we have got a trip to Hungary to Ferencváros.
Oh. Yeah.
So yeah. Hold on, I've just lost the page. Then we face Brighton, West Ham, Alkmaar, Crystal Palace away. That's October.
Right, so a bit of a mixture of games there. West Ham's always going to be a tough game.
Brighton away is going to be tough.
Brighton away, I was going to say Brighton away is going to be tough, and European fixtures as well. I'd like to see us get off to a strong start in the Europa League, because I've said all along, I've said for the last month or so, that I think the Europa League is our best chance of getting a trophy. I'm still not convinced we're going to win one this year, but I think out of all of them, I think we've got a bloody good chance with that. I really do. So, but you just never know in football, do you? You never know with Tottenham. That's kind of why we love them in a way, I'm sure, because you never know. It would be boring if we won every game, wouldn't it? No, probably not, actually.
No,
wouldn't be, would it?
No. Hopefully soon the trophies will be coming. Craig, thank you so much. Where can people find you on social media?
Oh God, yeah, social media. Christ, yeah, after what I slagged off social media.
And no, exactly, no social media, and no slagging off Craig, no abuse for Craig, please.
Yeah, no. Well, you can if you want. I'm far too long in the tooth to even bother with it. You just get blocked. But look, at Dearman9 on X if you want to give me a follow. I don't post tons, but what I do is usually about Tottenham or golf or something like that. But it's mainly about Tottenham. So yeah, pleasure to be on. Let's hope for a win tomorrow.
These are all the comments we get about you, Craig. There's no abuse for you.
Oh, thank you. They're all family. They're all family watching, I think. Yeah.
Well, Craig, thank you so much. Let's hope that Spurs can win at Coventry on Wednesday and go into the 4th round of the Carabao Cup. And let's hope that Spurs can go all the way and end up at Wembley next year. It would be great to see a trophy at some point at Tottenham Hotspur. Hopefully it's not 17 years plus. Thanks for watching, everyone. Thanks for listening. And thank you so much for all of your support. And we will see you for another edition of the Spurs Chat podcast on Wednesday evening. Come on, you Spurs.